Good afternoon, my beautiful blossoms, blooms, and buds. Sorry for the little stutter there. I was like, uh, what am I saying? Hello! Welcome to my book garden. Actually, welcome to my spooky plush garden. Um, a little bit of both. I'm Rosebud Reads. I think I already said that. I'm a little scattered today. It's been a long day. I ended up injuring myself a little bit on my ankle. So it's been interesting. Hello, Truffle. Hello, Chi Kiki. Welcome, welcome. But I am super excited for tonight's live stream. I think it is number 5. I think it's number 5. It's either number 4 or number 5. Hello, Cookielicious. How is everyone tonight? How am I today? I am a little tired. My ankle has, well, it's never been great, but I think I must have either sprained or pulled or ripped something in my ankle, and I am on my feet a lot at work, so it's been kind of getting worse. So we're gonna wrap it and see what happens. But I might have messed something up in my ankle. So other than that, though, I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. Um, yeah, I, yeah, thank you. I should get it looked at, but I'm also really tired of going to the doctor and paying for going to the doctor. So I know it's stupid, but I'm being a little stubborn right now where I'm like, I'm going to give it another week and like ice it and everything. But I'm just like, it's already messed up. Let's just power through it as long as we can. Oh, good, you got your AO3 password back. Amazing. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry you sprained yours falling down the stairs years ago and it's never been the same. That's my shoulder. I was working with some kids and we were going upstairs and they decided it was a great idea to like jerk away and I caught them with one arm and it yanked my shoulder and it's never been the same. But the ankle though, that one I ended up breaking by break dancing in my hallway, completely flat hallway, during COVID. And I had literally dropped my parents off at the airport not even 24 hours beforehand to go visit my sister. Was just like rocking out in my hallway. Got a little too into the beat a little bit. Thought I could jump, like just like yeah. And time started slowing down in the air, and I was just like, oh shit, this gonna hurt. And I was correct. My brain was right. Uh, I heard the snap. I saw literally saw lovely bright little stars, and got to hobble to the kitchen where I video called my mom, who's a nurse, and it was like, it was actually dark heart surgery by it was dark heart surgery. Uh, I should mention that too. Um, it's by Ganja White Knight. And yeah. But I called my mom and she was like, oh yeah, no, that's broken. It's turning purple. And then I got to text the friend that I was literally going to hang out with later that day, like, hey, I know you're doing laundry, but can you take me to the emergency room, pretty please? And they were like, are you kidding? I was like, I wish I was. Which, yeah. Which then they proceeded to say, like, woman, this is the second time. You gotta stop doing this. which they were not wrong. That was the second time they got to take me to the emergency room. But of course, it was also the weekend, so none of the actual bone places were open. And then I got to tell my work, which was just about to reopen for COVID, hey, I know we were going to start setup again. I can't come in because I broke my ankle. And I was like, so I got to spend the first part of COVID with a broken ankle. I am a mess. This is the perfect shirt today. I'm fine. This was also where I developed my favorite phrase, like, mind like bull, body like China. It's very relevant in my life. But anyway, I completely missed the rest of my welcome things. But yeah, you like that? Well, the whole phrase "bull in a china shop." It's like, I'm the china shop. Thank you. I'm very proud of that one. But yes. I mean, that's kind of an accomplishment, Truffle, that you've never actually been to the emergency room. To be fair, I've had a friend who, when they were biking, they got hit by a car, kind of just rolled, and then like kept going. Like they were more irritated that their bike got a little dented, and then I was like, "Are you okay?" They were like, "Yeah, I rolled." Like, that happened to me. Like, I'd just be a pancake. Like, to be fair, they're a lot more sturdy than I am. Let me put it this way. Playgrounds didn't like me either. This was not my first break. Oof. Ouch. Shoulders are rough, Truffle. Because they're connected to everything. You move, you're walking, and you don't know how much you move your shoulder until you hurt it. Oh. But anyway, this is a chill stream, if you couldn't already tell. I will do my best with pronunciations. This book is pretty easy on them, so we're okay. I think we're still at 95 subscribers. Let me take a peek real quick. View my channel. Or 95, not 35. What am I talking about? 95 subscribers. And let me see. This is the fourth read through. Third. Ha! Third. Oh my goodness, I'm losing my mind. That's a joke. I've already lost it. I have fic recs in the posts area, of which I also am excited about the ones for today, because I am surprised that I never posted one of them, which is, it's a little more mature. Okay, it's a lot more mature. It has some very descriptive graphic language. Not in a very delightful way, but it is definitely 18 plus. So if you are not of age, I do not recommend this, because that would be kind of illegal, I think. But it's called He Was Made for Untidy Rooms and Rumpled Beds by Blue Thursday, and it's actually the first part of a two-part universe called Into the Bingha verse. And is literally one of the absolute best Gumvillain fics or series I have ever read. The first book, spoilers, is from Bing Mei, so our traditional Bingha from the book. Oh, you just started reading that, Peacock Pages? You are in for a treat. It is absolutely amazing. The world building, mwah! But the second book is from OG Bingha point of view, which I think is fantastic. They are both complete. I could not recommend them more. I'm honestly surprised that I have not put them in the fic rec list before this. The second one is also one that I have read, I don't even know how many times. And it's called Genius Among the Genshins by Liz Bean. The fic is still ongoing, but it's huge. And absolutely worth the read. It has additional fics at the end of like the description that were inspired by it, so it's like bonus fics for it. It's a very self-indulgent fix-it where Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji figure their shit out earlier, and people accept that Wei Wuxian is way smarter than most of the cultivation world, for better or worse. And that changes a lot. So those are the recommendations. And I think that covers the basic necessities and the fun necessities of life. Well, not so fun. But what's going on in my life? I lied. I've got one more thing. And if anyone else has anything else that they're super excited about, feel free to add it now. I noticed that we also were talking about Legend of Exorcism and Ding Hai Fu Sheng, which I still need to read those. I am behind. But if anyone else has any weekend plans they're looking forward to or things that have happened, feel free to add it. This is a little short notice, but I will actually be getting a new tattoo tomorrow, and I'm excited to show you all on Tuesday. Excited about the new episode of Kill to Love. I do not have time this weekend to watch Kill to Love, but it is, as I said, it's definitely on my list. And I'm going to take a picture of the other recommendation. Yes, new tattoo. And it's a Danmei flavor tattoo. So you can think on that this weekend. But I am super, super, super excited. My tattoo artist came out with the design, and it was perfect. And it's one of those flash pop-ups where it's an apprentice doing the work. But they have done one of my other tattoos. They did the mushroom tattoo before for Little Mushroom. So I trust their work, and I could not be more excited for tomorrow. I've got it all planned out. I've got the money in my wallet. We're ready to go. But that is what I'm excited about. I also have a baby shower that I'm going to this weekend. And I'm also celebrating a friend's birthday and potentially going out to breakfast. So it is a busy weekend, but a good one. Yeah, no, I know. One of the reasons I'm getting one this soon as well is because since they're an apprentice, they have a much lower rate for their pop-up tattoos. So the mushroom tattoo is actually $20. And the one I will be getting, they've increased their rates because they have more experience now. But it's actually $50. So I'm like, perfect. But now I feel you about the money thing. Right? No, I really like their stuff. So when I saw this one, I was like, do you have anything open in the next few weeks? Like, I was like, I'll even do tomorrow, like after 5:30, like, and they were like, tomorrow's good. I was like, yes. So yeah, that's a little bit of my excitement. I've got a busy weekend, but I've got good things, and I am very grateful. And now I have jabbered off your ear, and I am so excited for this episode, this live stream, because these coming chapters today are some of my absolute favorites of this series. So I'll say we start at 15, maybe 15:15 for our timing. 15:15. We have sob count at 8 and yeet count at 2. All right. So last time we had Prince Jing kind of outsmarting the emperor about agreeing to his marriage, or even getting married to Liu. Yeah, the sob counter was putting in the work last stream. Oh no, is it not working? Is anyone else having trouble with the stream? I'm gonna just give it a sec. Okay, it's okay now? Okay. All right, I'm gonna keep going. Okay. If anything else happens, just let me know. I keep an eye on the comments as you see. But yeah. Okay. Restarting. So basically, Prince Jing tricks the emperor into basically agreeing to the marriage with Liu, and only having with a stipulation of like they can only be a concubine because they can't give birth. And that's the only reason I'm like opposed to this, which is basically what Prince Jing was going for. Because Liu was excited because he was like, at least the emperor had agreed to the two of them staying together. They had the whole future ahead of them. Perhaps if he acquired more achievements, the emperor would promote him to consort in a fit of joy. When Prince Jing received the emperor's reply, he smiled. After all of his planning, this was the exact response he'd been waiting for. As long as the only reason the emperor gave was that Liu couldn't bear children, then all his problems would be solved. Liu had already given him 4 fishy sons. Considering how long it would take them to transform, now was the exact right time to announce the pregnancy. Oh yeah, so after the fish babies hatch, the system said in 9 months they can do a slight system mission and they will transform. And so it's like the usual, I don't want to say gestation because I think that's just for plants, but the usual period that someone would be pregnant for the babies. Originally, Prince Jing had planned to invent a non-existent concubine and say the children were hers. Once he had children, it would be far easier to convince the emperor. But firstly, he was afraid this ruse would fall apart as soon as Liu had more children. And secondly, he was afraid the emperor would still refuse because Liu still couldn't give birth. Why did he have to invent a whole other person? He could just say Xiao Yu was special and could give birth. Even if no one else had heard of such a thing, it didn't mean it couldn't exist. Although it was a little unbelievable, there would be proof once the fish babies transformed. As the emperor had clearly said, due to the fact that he is a man and cannot bear children, he wouldn't be able to refute himself. There were many inconveniences on the western border, but there was one thing that was very convenient indeed. As long as he said Li Gonzi was pregnant, no one would be able to question it. If the emperor sent a gynecological expert, by the time they arrived at the border, the fish babies would have already been born, turning into human children. The reason why he hadn't mentioned this at the very beginning was because he was afraid the emperor would choose a different reason to deny him. Prince Jing had taken step after careful step, slowly dispelling any hesitations he might have toward Xiao Yu, just so that only this one reason remained. Although it was a little difficult, he could deal with it. Prince Jing put a hand on Liu's stomach and patted it. It was about time to stuff a little pillow inside. For some reason, just that phrase sounds a little dirty. It was time to stuff a little pillow inside. Like, I don't know exactly why. It just is like, all right, maybe it's the tummy pat. All right. Right? It does sound more dirty than it should. I'm glad it's not just me. And yes, he definitely does have the Emperor right where he wants him. Chapter 90, where we will begin. Fishy babies transform. Liu couldn't believe that the cooperation Prince Jing had mentioned before involved him pretending to be pregnant. That's not appropriate, is it? Liu is a little conflicted. Wasn't this lying to the Emperor? It's fine. Prince Jing found a whole bunch of pillows, all in various sizes, then handed him a note. Didn't you give birth to Da Bao, Air Bao, San Bao, and Si Bao? This is just so people think you gave birth to them as a human. What's wrong with that? The shock Liu felt was like an arrow to the knee. Prince Jing wasn't wrong. The kids were his either way. He hoped they could officially call him father in the future. Maybe then he could just pretend to be pregnant? The moment he agreed, a slightly flat pillow was stuffed into his robes. There were strings on the pillow so he could tie it behind his back. Prince Jing tested the tightness and kept looking at Liu with concern, as though asking, "Is it heavy?" Okay, he might be the first person to be treated this well, despite lying about being pregnant. Oh, that is kind of a trope. I'm pregnant! Sometimes it's real. True, not real. Sometimes it's ploy. I think that's what he is implying there. Liu shook his stomach happily and quietly said, "No, it's fine." Despite his reassurances, Prince Jing still kept worrying. He knew Liu's stomach would have to become very big in the future to feasibly fit 4 children. Yes, he gonna be big. Prince Jing had always wanted to keep Xiao Yu at his side and away from the sight of others. Prince Jing is so whipped, they are adorable. He is very whipped. I was trying to think of a fish pun for that, and I failed. If anyone else has a fish pun for he is so whipped, like, feel free to add it in the comments, because, like, my brain just went, no. Prince Jing had always wanted to keep Xiao Yu at his side and away from the sight of others. Now, he was even more sure of this decision. Even though it wasn't strictly necessary, it was still better if random people didn't show up around Xiao Yu. The couple that schemes together, dreams together, or something. Close enough for me, Truffle. Since Prince Jing had to report the news to the Emperor, though, Wang Shi, as the head eunuch, obviously also found out. After he was notified that Li Gonzi was pregnant, Wang Gonggong was dazed for a good while. Liu was afraid of their ruse being discovered, but to his surprise, after a momentary pause, Wang Shi started to cry. This old servant is so happy that His Highness is about to have children. Wang Shi wiped his eyes and said in a trembling voice, I used to think that if I could one day see His Highness's children, I could die without regrets. Oh my god, he's so sweet. At first, Wang Shi had also doubted the truth of the situation. How could a man get pregnant? But when he saw His Highness guiding Li Gonzi around himself and that Li Gonzi's stomach was a little raised, he indeed looked very pregnant. Could this be faked? Yes. So what if it was a man who was pregnant? It was still His Highness's children. I I love that. He's like, I don't care if this isn't, like, I've never seen this before. It's His Highness's children. Wang Shi was too excited. Prince Jing had no choice but to pat him on the shoulder to calm him down. Wang Gonggong was this thrilled to learn he was pregnant with just one baby. How would he react when he found out there were 4? Poor Wang Shi is just so happy his honorary son is giving him grandkids that he is totally fine with empreg. Yes, he is, Momars are over. Yes, he is. After Wang Shi calmed down a little, Prince Jing told him he held high hopes for this child and that he would take care of all necessary business himself. Wang Shi nodded to show that he understood. His Highness already held Li Gonzi in extremely high regard. Now that Li Gonzi was pregnant, it made sense His Highness wanted to do everything himself. If His Highness was taking care of the pregnancy, then what was left for him to do? Wang Shi slapped himself on the forehead. How could he forget? His Highness had asked him to prepare for the wedding. He felt galvanized to pay even more attention than before, so His Highness and Li Gonzi would be pleased. They'd be pleased with, like, the Wangxian wedding, where it was like, here's a ribbon, here's a cup. It's wine. Let's bow. Like, I think Prince Jing just wants his man, and Li Gonzi's happy to be along for the ride. After he let Wang Shu know, Prince Jing summoned the physicians that had come along with them to the western border. But now that Li Gonzi was officially his family and would eventually be given official status, the physicians were not permitted to see Li Gonzi directly. Instead, they had to do it with a couple of veils between them. Li Gonzi sat behind the veil, and all the physicians determined that Li Gonzi had been pregnant for 2 months. After the initial shock, they congratulated Prince Jing. Prince Jing just nodded slightly in acknowledgement. Everything was going according to plan. The purpose of having this diagnosis done was so that the distant emperor would be informed. The emperor's trusted physicians wouldn't arrive at the western border for a while yet. The diagnosis would come in handy, as the emperor would definitely ask the physicians around Prince Jing for the opinions first. Before having the physicians assess Liu's pulse through the veil, Prince Jing had secretly found a woman who was 2 months pregnant to sit behind the veil in Liu's place. The physicians had never assessed a pregnant man before to know any differences, so it was enough as long as they could tell he was pregnant. They could do the same thing each time afterward until the birth. Prince Jing was prepared. When the news made it back to the capital, the emperor was so shocked his jaw nearly hit the floor, and he reread Prince Jing's letter several times. He never expected Prince Jing's response to be, Liu is pregnant. Please give him the consort position. I hope that was the entire letter. Like, dear Your Highness Father, Liu is pregnant. Please give him the consort position. Like, I know he wouldn't put, like, love, but highest regards, Prince Jing, your son. That would be amazing. I could also see him kind of doing something like that, like, legit just, that's it. The imperial guards that the emperor had sent to the western border reported the same thing, and came attached with the physician's diagnosis, which the emperor read several times over, was afraid he was misreading the words. Could men really get pregnant? The emperor's face in that moment had to be priceless. Yeah. I imagine the guards probably, like, had to pretend they didn't see it for fear of their lives at that moment, because he probably lost a little bit of face at that moment. Baffled grandpa noises. Yeah. Previously, the emperor would have been certain it was impossible, but seeing the physician's diagnosis now, he wasn't sure. After all, the reason was that he had a unique constitution. The emperor quickly summoned all the imperial physicians overnight and ordered them to analyze the diagnosis. They discussed it for the entire night, but they couldn't reach a conclusion. They didn't know Liu's actual condition, so there was no way that they could say with 100% certainty that men could not get pregnant. The emperor then sent a gynecological expert to the western borders to take Liu's pulse. He gave it some thought, then sent a letter to Liao Kong as well. Liao Kong had a wealth of knowledge. He'd be able to give him a straight answer. There were only two possibilities when it came to Liu's pregnancy. It was either real, or Prince Jing was putting on an act. Although Prince Jing kept paving the way for Liu, the emperor didn't believe the prince would do such a stupid thing. A faked imperial pregnancy was very easy to expose. But what if it was real? Liu had no family and came from a poor background. He really wasn't a suitable candidate for consort. However, he had also accomplished a lot in a short period of time and made Prince Jing fall in love with him. The emperor was already being quite generous by granting him the title of concubine. But he couldn't agree to anything further due to the issue of Prince Jing's future heirs. If Liu really could bear children, then there was no reason not to give him the consort position. I love the fact that making Prince Jing fall in love with him was a consideration in his regard for the emperor, because it didn't have to be. Like, he could just be like, he's been doing very meritorious deeds, but he's like, he actually made my son happy, and that counts for something. So I appreciate that. Staring at Prince Jing's letters, the emperor finally woke up. Prince Jing had probably waited until now to mention this specifically so that the emperor wouldn't have any reason to say no. I like that the emperor sees it as one of his accomplishments. Very much so. I agree, Mars Rover. He laughed ruefully. Damned brat. He'd actually achieved the impossible. Soon, Liao Kong's response arrived. As expected of an eminent monk, all he said was, "The world is vast and full of wonders." The emperor understood that, based on Liao Kong's knowledge. He believed that it was possible for a man to get pregnant. His curiosity was satisfied. Now, he just had to wait for the physician's diagnosis. I love that Liao Kong, I know he's not even necessarily in Prince Jing's pocket, but, he's definitely on his side. And I agree, Truffle. It's probably because the emperor and all the family were used to Prince Jing ignoring all possible romantic entanglements. Or just even, other entanglements that if he didn't have an interest in it, there's nothing you can do about it. You're stonewalled. First, though, the emperor assured Prince Jing that if the imperial physician confirmed that Liu could get pregnant, he would be willing to let Liu become consort. Prince Jing saw hope for victory and would occasionally take Liu on walks within the property to show him off in front of the servants. The entire western border hung on to Prince Jing's every word. Everyone was delighted at the news that he was about to have a child. Due to safety, Prince Jing had not publicized that the one who was pregnant was a man, as he didn't want this to become the topic of discussion. As a result, not many people knew, and all the villagers were full of happy congratulations. Yeah, they were so happy he liked to fish. They should be over the moon that he fell in love. And I imagine they are. They're just like, his status is a little, could be better, but what can you do? During this time, the bandits tried to use this chance to take revenge, but they ended up being discovered by the guards. When they realized that the bandits were only human and could be defeated, plenty of strong young men had signed up to join the guards. Prince Jing had more and more people under his command, and they grew stronger every day by training with the Imperial Guards. Meanwhile, Prince Jing had predicted an upcoming attack by the bandits, so he strengthened the defense. When the bandits came, they were once again defeated by tunnels and traps. From the outside, under Prince Jing's close guard, Luofeng village seemed impenetrable, and inside the village, he guarded Liu with equal care. So one aspect of this that is really notable is once you break the element of fear, which the bandits had on this town, that stranglehold, and empower the actual people of this town, even when the prince leaves, it will still hopefully continue to embody that hope and leave some aspect of this border town protected, which is what makes that even more special, that the young people of the town are actually working towards learning how to defend it themselves. They won't be as reliant on outside aid. It might not mean they win everything, but he probably loved Home Alone. Leo probably absolutely loved Home Alone. Let's be real. But yeah, so him being willing to train the people in town not only gives him more fighters, but also extends the aspect of protection. It makes the people realize that they can fight back, which is very empowering. Spiel done. Prince Jing never left Liu's side. Although it was a fake pregnancy, he kept telling Liu to rest and took care of everything for him. Prince Jing seemed almost obsessed, but he was happy. Liu thought Prince Jing might be taking this chance to take care of him to make up for all the times he couldn't before. What else could he do other than to accept all of the attention? Eventually, Prince Jing didn't even want Liu to hold the crystal bottle. The responsibility of taking care of the fish babies fell to Wang Shi. Wang Shi couldn't help but sigh as he stared at the lively fish babies. Wouldn't it be lovely if Li Gonzi gave birth to 4 babies too? Yes, it would be, Wang Shi. Liu felt a little awkward. Wang Gong had accidentally predicted the truth. Can't wait till he finds out it's true. The fish babies also started noticing the change between their fathers. The first to notice was Da Bao, but eventually even Si Bao, who was a little slower, could tell something was different. Daddy Prince Jing was always guiding their fish dad around. They knew Fish Dad could transform into a human just like their Prince Dad, but now Fish Dad's stomach was even rounder than Air Bao's. Da Bao had already guessed what might be going on by listening to their father's words and was eagerly anticipating. But the innocent Air Bao and San Bao asked, "Is Daddy going to give birth to another brother?" The even more innocent Si Bao said, "Aw, Daddy must have eaten a lot of peach blossom pastries. He never gave them to Si Bao. Si Bao wants to eat too." Si Bao. The imperial physician that the emperor had sent was still on the way, while the growing up quest kept ticking down. Whenever I hear tunnel warfare, I just think of that. Fair point. One day, Liu had just taken off his belly pillow and was feeding the fish babies when Da Bao, who had always been very attentive, suddenly seemed distant and zoned out. Si Bao is adorable. Definitely takes after Liu. Yes. Liu didn't give it much thought. But in the time it took him to turn around, Da Bao had disappeared and a chubby, pale baby had appeared on the bed, waving his arms and legs around. Da Bao was the first to complete the system's quest, he realized, as expected of the smart Da Bao. Wait, no! Da Bao must be very afraid! Liu quickly picked up Da Bao and wiped away the water on his body. Luckily, the system hadn't transformed Da Bao right in the fish tank. That would have been disastrous. Yeah. I'll give system points for that. Prince Jing had prepared precious swaddling clothes in advance, and Liu bundled Da Bao up haphazardly, holding him close to his chest. Even though it was his first time being human, Da Bao was very brave and thought everything was very new. He stared around at everything with grape-like black eyes. Was this what it felt like to grow up? Usually not that fast, but yes. Sometimes, yes. So, yes. Sometimes, yes. So, I'm going to spoil you and show you the picture first. Yep, hang on. There he is. He's like, wait, what? Baby Dabao! Yeah, his face is pretty funny, and he looks quite a lot like Prince Jing, and I kind of love that. He does look so upset and cute. Dabao moved his legs as usual, attempting to swim, but his arms and legs didn't listen to him. He wanted to call out to his fish dad, but when he opened his mouth, only crying came out. The brave Dabao finally felt a little fear. Now that he was human, he couldn't swim or speak. Dabao cried even harder. Should I mark that as a sob, sob, sob? I know it's not his daddy, but it's a warranted sob, sob, sob right there. Prince Jing heard the crying from outside. As soon as he ran in, he saw Liu holding a human baby, doing his best to comfort him. Prince Jing had seen Liu and the fish babies holding each other's tails, so they formed a line. Although he already knew these babies were his children, they all looked like fish. That scene wasn't as shocking as seeing Liu trying to comfort a real, live baby. Prince Jing's gaze started to blur. He walked over extremely carefully, afraid to startle Xiaoyu. Your Highness, come look at Dabao! Liu handed the child over. It wasn't very clear when he was a fish, but now that Dabao was human, it was very obvious. Prince Jing had also been a chubby little guy when he was young. He and Dabao looked like they came out of the same mold. Looking at the long-awaited small round child, Liu held in his laughter, but his eyes were slightly red. How strange. He was more emotional than when he had laid the eggs, or even when they had hatched. Prince Jing accepted the child from his arms, gazing endlessly at him as though it would never be enough. Don't cry. He wiped Liu's eyes gently, but his own eyes were already wet. At that moment, Airbao, Sanbao, and Sibao suddenly realized that Dabao had turned into a human. The three of them were so afraid that they all held their breath and sank to the bottom of the tank. Poor babies. That's got to be, like, traumatizing to be swimming with your brother and then all of a sudden he just pops away and there's a baby. I think it's kind of funny how everyone looks at Dabao and goes, yeah, that couldn't be anyone else's kid. Yeah. Makes things easier later on. Emperor can't be like, are you sure? Chapter 91, Fish Baby Rebellion. Because Dabao had suddenly turned into a human baby, Prince Jing had no choice but to inform the servants that Liu had started giving birth. The midwife that they had ready came into the room, and Prince Jing stood guard over the birthing room. Wang Shi had been extra attentive these last few days. As soon as he heard the sound of an infant crying, he was delighted. But he didn't see the new young master for a long time. He was beside himself with worry when Prince Jing sent the word out that Liu had given birth to one child, but was still in labor. Wang Shi was stunned for a moment, then became ecstatic. Li Gonzi's stomach had been a little larger than normal, so he guessed there might be more than one. But since Prince Jing hadn't revealed anything, Wang Shi didn't dare spread the news based only on his own predictions. Now that he knew it really was a pair of twins, he was still happy, but immediately started praying. He had heard giving birth to twins was a very painful, dangerous, and laborious process. Wang Shi hoped Li Gonzi and the young masters would remain safe. Outside of the room, Wang Shi and the servants waited anxiously. Inside the room, it was a completely different scene. The midwife was actually a trusted confidant of Prince Jing's who had a bit of medical knowledge. As soon as he entered the room, he cleaned Da Bao up, checked him over, and rewrapped Liu's haphazard swaddle. He's crying so hard. Is he uncomfortable somewhere? Liu asked quietly. When Da Bao had been a fish, he hadn't shed a single tear. What had happened to make him so upset? The confidant finished checking and bowed to Liu with his hands clasped. The young highness is very healthy. He didn't know where this baby had come from, but he knew that this was the young highness. He disregarded everything else and just answered what he was asked. As for why the young highness was crying, that was easy. It was normal for babies to cry. Liu had been looking for a specific explanation and felt pretty disappointed. Never mind. Fish Dad decided he'd just ask Da Bao himself once he learned how to speak. Might be waiting a little while for that one, but I mean, you can. Da Bao was healthy and his cries were clear and bright. Prince Jing felt his heart settle back down. Ever since he could remember, the imperial physicians had told him his muteness might be hereditary. As both he and Xiao Yu were male, he hadn't worried about this before. Then he had been surprised with some fish babies, and Xiao Yu had told him proudly that all the fish babies could say, Dad. That was when Prince Jing thought that perhaps his muteness wouldn't be passed down to the carp spirit's children. But he'd never managed to hear the babies speak himself. Afraid Xiao Yu might be disappointed, he'd never mentioned it to him. But now that Da Bao was perfectly fine, Prince Jing could stop worrying. That's gotta be a heavy burden. Like, I don't want to even say burden, but a heavy weight on his mind, worrying that one of his children might be mute, which he would still love them unconditionally, I'm sure, but I imagine he's, like, you can already see from the book, he's gone through a lot of things, been discriminated against because he was mute, and all these things, and of course he doesn't want that for his children. So having that not happen, I was going to put it more eloquently, but my brain is not being productive tonight. Probably was a huge relief to him. The confidant reported that all was well and Da Bao was a healthy human baby. Now it was time for the 3 other fish babies to follow him. Prince Jing ordered the confidant to leave the room for the time being, leaving only him and Liu. I'm a genetic counselor in real life, and that's exactly how most patients feel. That's super cool, one, that's your job. That sounds really interesting, but also really heartbreaking that is the concern that people have. Like, I mean, it's not unwarranted because society can be vicious. But yeah. Prince Jing ordered the confidant to leave the room for the time being, leaving only him and Liu. The 2 of them silently waited for the other fish babies to transform. From pregnancy to birth, Prince Jing had thought of and taken care of everything. But they both expected the fish babies to transform all at the same time. Instead, they were transforming one by one. Because Da Bao had already transformed, the other fish babies had to follow him quickly so Liu could successfully give birth. After all, if a pregnant woman gave birth to many children, there wouldn't be too much of a gap between each one. It was easy to explain an hour or even 2, but if there was an entire day or longer between each one, that would be way too suspicious and dangerous. So, the current task was to convince the other 3 babies to transform as soon as possible. They couldn't let this birth drag on for too long. Liu thought that with Da Bao as an example, the other babies would transform one by one, but for some reason, the other 3 fish babies were all crowded together, trembling. They waited for a while, but Bao still wasn't moving. They couldn't just keep waiting like this. Liu gave Prince Jing a look, then transformed into a fish to ask the fish babies what was going on. As soon as he had returned to fish form and entered the tank, the fish babies all swam over. Dad! Dad! Airbao, Sanbao, and Seabao cried out together. How scary! Dagua turned into a human! Liu asked amused. Do you guys not want to be human? Airbao, Sanbao, and Seabao shook their heads fiercely. We don't! What? Why not? Fish Dad thought being a human was much more interesting than being a fish. Why didn't the fish babies agree? Airbao hesitated. Dad, I wanted to try it before, but Dagua couldn't even move after he turned human, so I've changed my mind. Yeah, turning human is so scary, Sanbao agreed. I wanted to be human before too, but Dagua stopped being able to speak. I'm afraid of being like Dagua. Seabao said decisively. Dad, I'm not turning into a human. Liu never would have expected that before the revolution had even succeeded. The wide-eyed fish babies had already wanted to rebel. The three babies huddled closely together in a scared fishy ball, and Liu couldn't do much about the current situation. He first had to dissolve the three babies' alliance. I love that he's talking about this like a war council. Liu started by bringing Seabao a large piece of peach blossom pastry. Seabao immediately forgot about his brothers and focused on the pastry instead. As for Airbao and Sanbao, Liu defeated them one by one. He knew one liked food and one liked beauty, so he persuaded them using their specific preferences. Liu enticed Airbao patiently. Being a human is fun. You can be just like Dad. Other than peach blossom pastries and fish food, there's plenty of other delicious things, and you can play with the ducklings whenever you want. Hearing that there was lots of delicious food to eat, his eyes grew wide. He also liked ducklings, but he was never allowed to get near them. If he turned into a human, could he play with them? In the face of food and fun, Airbao was suddenly tempted. Then Liu said to Sanbao, once you turn into a human, you can wear clothes just like Dad and have lots of shiny accessories. Sanbao liked being pretty. Ah, Dad, I like shiny things. I want to wear Daddy's clothes. Although Sanbao was a very pretty little silver fish, he couldn't go back and forth between forms. No matter how pretty something was, if someone looked at it for too long, it would become boring. The same applied to fish. But Fish Dad got to wear something different every day. Sanbao wanted that. Just like Airbao, Sanbao changed his mind. Without much effort, Liu had managed to convince 2 out of the 3 members of the rebellion. So, do you guys want to try being human? He said, smiling. Airbao and Sanbao looked at each other, then giggled and nodded. Yes! With that, Airbao and Sanbao simultaneously turned into a pair of infants about as large as their big brother. Prince Jing was waiting by the side of the tank and quickly scooped both of them up. Liu jumped to Prince Jing's shoulder to see what they looked like. They looked just like Dabao with their chubby little faces. Liu couldn't help but be a little upset. How come they didn't look like him? Soon, Airbao and Sanbao both started to brawl, perhaps because they didn't immediately receive delicious food and pretty clothes. Liu thought guiltily, you'll have it when you grow older. After Airbao and Sanbao transformed, the only stubborn one left was Seabao. Seabao was still munching on his pastry. When he looked up, he realized that his brothers were all gone. Only his fish dad was left, looking at him benevolently. Seabao, do you want to become a human? Seabao shook away the crumbs on his fins. No. Liu tried to tempt him the same way he had tempted Airbao and Sanbao. There's delicious food, fun things to play with, and beautiful clothes. Seabao doesn't want any of that. No. Sibao said loudly. Sibao has pastries from Dad to eat, and I can play with Dad. Sibao also doesn't like beautiful clothes. Then what does Sibao like? I like my dad's the best. Liu's heart felt warm. Following Sibao's train of thought, he asked, Then can Sibao help Daddy out? Sibao nodded. If he could help Daddy, the innocent Sibao thought that made him even better than his brothers. Liu was now very good at convincing his children and said to Sibao, You'll be helping Daddy out if you transform. Can you do that? This time, Sibao didn't even have to think about it. Yes! ... Liu thought he'd transform as soon as he agreed, but Sibao didn't. After agreeing, Sibao just kept waving his tail very earnestly. I love him so much. Liu and Sibao stared at each other for a while, waiting. He didn't know what the problem was. Sibao, why aren't you transforming? Liu couldn't help but rush him. Sibao glanced at his own fish body, spread his fins out, and tried very hard, shouting, Transform! But he was still a little fish. Nothing had changed. They went back to staring at each other, faintly confused. Liu suddenly realized something. Sibao, you do know how to transform, right? I don't know, Sibao cried. If this fish still didn't transform, this was about to turn into a difficult birth. Bless his heart, right? This kid. Liu, risking revealing himself as a system fish, reminded the slightly slow Sibao. Hasn't there been anything called a system telling you to complete quests? Yes. He's really annoying, so I ignored him. Daddy, aren't I good? Sibao thought the system was something bad. You can pay attention to him, Liu pushed back the urge to facepalm and guided Sibao. If you do what he says, you should be able to transform. Really? Sibao finally worked it out. He spun in circles on the spot a few times, then mumbled something. Liu thought he still didn't understand when Sibao suddenly swam over and rubbed his mouth against Liu warmly. Dad! Sibao shouted happily. He wanted to tell him that he'd finally figured it out, but before he could get the words out, he disappeared. At the same time, a baby appeared before Liu. He had a pair of dark eyes, slightly curly hair, and pale skin. He was quiet like a little angel and smiled at Liu toothlessly. Congratulations, user. Growing up has been completed. Please collect your reward. After Liu had laid the eggs, just like last time, the system had gone into careful calculation and planning. It hadn't given him a new quest in a while. The current quest line he was on was to help the fish babies grow into humans. It took a while to complete this quest. The description said that all the kids had successfully turned into humans. They had become part of this world. When Liu looked around the empty fish tank with only himself inside, he felt a little wistful. Liu had asked the fish scamming system before about the quests the fish babies had to complete to transform. The system had been quite secretive, though, and it had never told him the details of the quest. All Liu knew was that the quests weren't too hard, and that after the fish babies completed them, they would turn into human babies, but they wouldn't be able to turn back into fish until they were 7 years old. Oh yeah, hello K-Moments. Welcome. And yes, bless his heart. He's an absolute sweetheart. If at the age of 7 they could still remember being a fish and would like to try being a fish again, the system would give them a new quest. Completing it would give them the ability to transform into a fish. But if they forgot, it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing either for their new life. Liu paused, knowing this was something his children had to go through. But knowing it was one thing. He wouldn't be able to see the lively jumping fish babies for a long time and couldn't help but feel sad. A hand reached down, gently rubbing his back. As though leaning against driftwood, he pressed himself tightly against that hand. Whether the children remembered or not, whether they remembered their fish dad or not, he would always have Prince Jing at his side. His Highness would never let him feel lonely. I am of the personal opinion that the babies will remember, just because I have a feeling that Liu's gonna keep turning back into a fish, because, like, he seems to actually legitimately enjoy being a fish. So I don't really see him giving that up, even when he has the ability to just stay a human the whole time. Like, that is my personal headcanon. Like, I don't think it's ever officially said whether or not he does, but, like, dude seems to have fun being a fish. Like, of course he wants to be human whenever he wants to be human, but, like, he adapted to being a fish way too quickly to not enjoy it. Let's be real. Anyway, very quickly Liu's mood recovered and he shook his tail, wrapping it around Prince Jing's figure. I hope they do. I'd be mad if I had the power and they forgot it later, and then forgot it later. Right? Like, that's also, like, if you're doing imperial intrigue, like, someone's coming at you and all of a sudden you just, like, see water and you can just disappear. Like, that's such a good skill. I mean, we'll get there, Truffle. Give it a couple more weeks. We'll find out together. The people outside had been waiting for too long. It was time to bring the children out. Liu jumped into the crystal bottle so Prince Jing could take him along. That way, he could see the children too. Everything was all set. Prince Jing rang the jade bell. Hearing his master's summons, Wang Shi shot into the room. Wang Gong had heard the cries of 3 babies and was so happy he couldn't stop smiling. But when he came in, he saw 4 young masters? My heavens, how amazing! Wang Shi was stunned for a while, then knelt to the ground to thank all manner of deities. On the same day Prince Jing gained 4 sons, the gynecological expert arrived at the western border. Without resting, he came to Prince Jing's residence in Luofeng village. Hearing that Li Gonzi had given birth, is it Li? Oh my gosh. For a second, I thought it was Liu. Oh my gosh. Li Gonzi, who had just given birth, needed rest. Prince Jing wouldn't let anyone disturb him. Even the imperial physician had to check his pulse through the veil. After checking Li Gonzi's pulse, the physician went to check on the 4 little newborn Gonzi. You can't tell me that Wang Shi hasn't been pacing back and forth this whole time. He absolutely was. Men getting pregnant was completely unheard of. The emperor had given him a secret order to verify the identity of these children. The imperial physician had wanted to take a bit of blood from Li Gonzi to test and ask Prince Jing to understand. But Prince Jing shook his head. He couldn't let the physician disturb Liu. He stopped him and rolled up his own sleeve. The physician was stunned, but after a moment he quickly drew some of Prince Jing's blood. Compared to whether or not Li Gonzi could really give birth, the emperor cared far more about whether or not these children were actually of Prince Jing's blood. Testing proved that these little Gonzis were indeed Prince Jing's, and each child's voice was louder than the next. None were mute like the emperor had worried. What wonderful news! The imperial physician wrote a letter himself and sent it back to the capital with the fastest speed possible. Gifted Fishy, chapter 92. Hang on. The emperor held the letter in shaking hands, afraid that his eyes were playing tricks on him. The imperial physician had reported that Prince Jing now had 4 healthy sons, and none of them were mute. The Emperor pressed the letter to his chest, taking deep breaths. Sorry, my Discord just beeped at me. The Emperor pressed the letter to his chest, taking deep breaths. He had once believed that his and Empress Xiaohuai's line would end with Prince Jing, but Prince Jing had healthy children. 4 of them. There was no news better than this. He really loved his wife. The Emperor laughed out loud, no longer bothered by Prince Jing's slight offense from before. Now that he suddenly had 4 new grandkids, the Emperor couldn't be happier. He immediately ordered Luo Rushang to bring the materials so that he could write an imperial edict, officially announcing Liu as Prince Jing's consort, Prince Jing's oldest Dai-son as Shizi, his second Dai-son as standard class, rank 5, so that means government officials in ancient China followed the 9-rank system, which classified officials in 9 ranks, having a standard and secondary rank to make a total of 18 classifications. So it's kind of like you want to be first. Cloud Cavalry Commandant. His third Dai-son is standard class rank 7, Grace Cavalry Commandant. The Emperor was so overjoyed that he appointed 4 official titles in one go, muttering the whole time, I am appointing Liu as Prince Jing's consort, so that isn't a reward. Liu and Prince Jing both have made great achievements at the western border, so I will grant my grandsons titles instead. Watching from the side, the corners of head eunuch Luo's lips twitched. As he witnessed the Emperor grant Prince Jing's youngest son the Grace Cavalry Commandant position as well, he thought, you were the one who refused to give Liu the consort position, and look at you now. He's kind of like internally laughing at the Emperor, because if he laughed out loud, like, he'd be executed. And he's like, look at you now, you sappy grandpa. At least now, head eunuch Luo knew who he should kiss up to in the future. This was just fate. The Emperor had other grandsons like the ones in the Marquise of An's household, but it had been a long time since they had last entered the palace, so the Emperor barely remembered them. The third prince also had sons, the oldest now 6 years old, and the youngest 3. The third prince made them see the Emperor often, but they had been taught too well. The Emperor did want to see them, but it wasn't much fun when he did, so he didn't end up seeing them very often. None of them were like Prince Jing's sons, who the Emperor hadn't met yet. How exciting! The Emperor couldn't stop thinking about them, and had even given them titles. This was a rarity indeed. Distance makes the heart fonder, I think, plays into it a little bit here. And that they're healthy, because that was always a concern. Head eunuch Luo was very smart and made sure to only say things that made the Emperor happy. The servant heard the imperial physician say that 3 of the royal grandsons look like Prince Jing. The youngest one looks more like Li Gonzi. The Emperor had never met Liu, but he remembered what Prince Jing looked like when he was young. Thinking back on it, he chuckled. Could be fun, if that's the case. The Emperor wanted to see his grandsons, and after finding out they looked like Prince Jing, he wanted to see them even more. He knew that under Prince Jing's guidance, the western border was now in pretty good shape, but was in a pretty good state, not shape, but it still couldn't compare to the capital. It was best if his grandsons didn't continue to suffer there. Originally, the Emperor had planned to make Prince Jing stay at the border for 2 years to prove himself. Now that his son had given him grandsons, the Emperor wanted Prince Jing to rush back immediately. Luckily, head eunuch Luo was there to persuade him against being so rash. The royal grandsons had only just been born. How could they withstand such a long journey? The Emperor finally relented, recognizing that the joy had gone to his head. If he wanted to summon them, of course it had to be after they grew up a bit. Over the past year, the Emperor had been very satisfied with Prince Jing's various achievements on the western border. In comparison, the 6th prince, who only fixed Zhongshui Palace, seemed incredibly lackluster. Besides, Prince Jing already had a healthy Dai-son, so it no longer mattered whether or not he could speak. Unconsciously, the scale in the Emperor's heart started to tilt towards Prince Jing. Considering that his entire family was on the western border, though, the emperor decided not to spread the news that Prince Jing already had a Dai son before he returned. The emperor ordered Luo Rusheng to announce the edict secretly and let the old Duke of Cheng'an in on the secret as well. As Prince Jing's grandfather, Yi Qian should be informed of the good news, but the emperor told him not to spread it around. When Yi Qian received the news, tears flowed down his wizened cheeks. The emperor's warning, however, made him realize there was something unique about the situation. When he thought it over, he suddenly understood why. Yi Qian followed instructions and kept it to himself, only ordering the manor's doors to be tightly shut. He summoned an opera troupe, and they sang for 3 days and 3 nights straight. These days, when he walked, there was a spring in his steps, and his health seemed much improved. The emperor finally agreed to let Liu become Prince Jing's consort. Last time, he'd only written a letter to Prince Jing. This time, he'd written an entire imperial edict about it. Everything was done and settled. Prince Jing had predicted this result and asked the emperor to allow him to hold the wedding at the western border. Originally, the emperor wasn't very happy about this. How could he, as the father, not be present at his son's wedding? But his grandsons were already born. They couldn't delay the wedding any longer, and the emperor couldn't leave the capital. With all that in mind, he had no choice but to agree to Prince Jing's request. Next, Prince Jing sent a list of names to the emperor. These were the families who had stocked up on ducks while Prince Jing was taking care of the locusts. The emperor immediately understood that Prince Jing was reporting these people, and he was smart about it. He just asked the emperor to look into it, avoiding involving himself directly. Ever since the emperor had sent Prince Jing to the western border, he'd ordered someone to keep an eye on the communications between the border and the capital. With this list in hand, the emperor quickly determined that these families who had hoarded ducks had someone supporting them from behind. While Prince Jing had been dealing with the locusts, the Marquis of Jinyi was the only person who had sent word over to the western border. The family that had first started stocking up on ducks were distant relatives of Vice Director Qin from the Ministry of Rights. The Marquis of Jinyi and the third prince were in-laws. Vice Director Qin stood on the third prince's side and often did things for the third prince, so it was obvious who was behind all this. When the Imperial Guards looked into Vice Director Qin, they also discovered something else. Before Prince Jing reached the border, there had been rumors spreading about Prince Jing having a terrible temper and harming innocent people. These rumors were Vice Director Qin's doing. Qin, not Qin. The guards had even found incriminating letters in Vice Director Qin's residence. The emperor was shocked at all the evidence. Mu Tianming was right under his nose. These days, he was only allowed to study in the imperial study room, but his influence still reached all the way to the western border. Was he trying to harm Prince Jing? The emperor had planned on leaving the third prince be, wanting to preserve his dignity. But clearly, the third prince was throwing it away himself. I smell another scheme. So does the emperor. With a cold expression, the emperor first punished the unappreciative Marquis of Jinyi, demoting him to the lowest rank. Then he gave the third prince the title of Marquis of Ping. With the second prince, the Marquis of An, they made quite a pair. Together, the Marquis of Ping and the Marquis of An make the word peace. That's kind of poetic. Love the savage imagery of that. When he found out that he'd been completely abandoned, Mu Tianming ran to the palace, stumbling the whole way. The guards wouldn't let him in, so all he could do was kowtow in the direction of Qianqing Palace, sobbing. "Father, please let me speak to you. It really wasn't me." Every time Mu Tianming's forehead came into contact with the ground, he grew more hopeless. He really couldn't explain it. The Marquise of Jinyi truly was keeping tabs for him, but that was it. He'd never asked him to do anything. He didn't know why Vice Director Qin had done all that, nor did he know how those letters written in his hand had ended up in Vice Director Qin's study. A plot. But the Emperor was convinced it was him, and he didn't want to hear any excuses. The third prince kneeled for an entire day and night. A rainstorm swept in and chilled his heart completely. He was in a daze, but just as he was about to pass out, an oil paper umbrella was slowly moved over the top of the third prince's head. Mu Tianming looked up to see Mu Tianxiao's expression full of concern on his face. Beneath the umbrella, the sixth prince was still elegant and refined. Third brother, you're going to catch a cold. Mu Tianxiao reached out to help Mu Tianming up. Everybody knew the sixth prince followed the third prince, never leaving him behind even when the third prince had fallen into the dust. But at this moment, Mu Tianming's mood was even colder than the rainwater. Mu Tianxiao, let me ask you. Mu Tianming slapped away the sixth prince's hand, wiping his face and asked in a low voice. Was that Qin guy following your orders? Mu Tianming had given his token to Mu Tianxiao. If he hadn't sent the orders to Vice Director Qin, then it had to be Mu Tianxiao. The sixth prince should have been an actor, right? Would have been better for everybody. He'd even stolen his handwriting. Mu Tianxiao had secretly planned everything behind his back, and now the third prince was the one suffering the Emperor's wrath. Third brother, have you finally realized? Mu Tianxiao smiled easily, twirling the umbrella carelessly, watching as the raindrops fell. I just wanted to create some trouble for Prince Jing. That way I could gain power faster, and it would be good for you too. Good for you too, huh? Here's his scheming face. Look at those snake eyes. He's got them evil eyes. That smug face. He has a very punchable face. Very punchable. I think the third prince would agree. One second. Just sit better. Oh, that feels better. You're full of shit. You clearly broke my trust and used me as a stepping stone. Did you forget you used to be nothing? Who's the one who protected you? Who is the one who gave you something to do? Mu Tianming grabbed onto Mu Tianxiao's collar in a fit of rage, wanting to choke this traitor to death. Mu Tianxiao didn't struggle. He let Mu Tianming shake him, then smiled as he said, Third brother, with how things are now, you should really calm down. Mu Tianxiao peeled Mu Tianming's fingers off him one by one. Mu Tianming realized with a start that the sixth prince was a lot stronger than he seemed. Mu Tianxiao smoothed out his collar and said slowly, Third brother, our royal father won't bother with you anymore. He won't listen to anything you have to say. If you behave as the Marquise of Ping, when I ascend to the throne, perhaps I will remember the good times we had in the past. How dare you! How could Mu Tianming suffer such humiliation? He lunged for Mu Tianxiao again. A guard appeared behind Mu Tianxiao and stopped Mu Tianming. Mu Tianxiao smirked as he turned around. Third brother, please do as you see fit. I'll be leaving first. What a snake! Mu Tianxiao walked into the rain alone with his umbrella. No matter how much Mu Tianming cursed or screamed behind him, he completely ignored him. Wu Tianxiao's mood soared. He was finally completely free from the third prince. When he returned to his manor, his confidant reported that the emperor had appointed Liu to be the Prince Jing's consort. Wu Tianxiao couldn't help but snort. Taking a man as his official consort, Prince Jing probably wouldn't be able to achieve much anymore. He was in the midst of reveling in his victory when his confidant backed up a step and said in a low voice, "Your Highness, news just arrived from the western border that Prince Jing now has 4 healthy Dai sons." What? Wu Tianxiao's expression was panicked. Wasn't Prince Jing about to marry a man? Where had those 4 Dai sons come from? They were all healthy? Is everything going all right? Did you see the picture from before? I'm just double checking the connection. Had his confidant made a mistake? Mu Tianxiao didn't believe his confidant and grabbed the report from him, reading it carefully line by line. The 6th prince didn't have that many people working for him at the western border, so he didn't have anyone in Prince Jing's residence directly. His reports essentially just contained what the villagers knew. Okay, I was just making sure the stream was still streaming. Cool. Prince Jing really did have healthy children. In that case, Prince Jing's muteness was no longer a flaw he couldn't overcome. The 6th prince didn't understand where the children had come from, but he could already foresee the outcome. If Prince Jing's muteness wasn't a problem, what did he have to compete against Prince Jing with? The palace he'd spent over half the year repairing at the Ministry of Works, or his mother, who had once been a palace servant. He'd finally escaped from the 3rd prince's halo to reach this point. He was about to marry an aristocratic lady and receive support from the Yu family. The 3rd prince's power and authority were now his, and he was walking step by step towards his goal. Was Prince Jing going to snatch everything out of his hands just because he had a son now? Yes. Yes, he is. He would never let such a thing happen. The 6th prince read the report over and over, searching for some flaw in Prince Jing he could use against him. Prince Jing, who had no flaws, was currently suffering from a headache. Wang Shi saw the 4 children as a symbol of luck and found the best wet nurses for them. But aside from the day they were born, these symbols of luck refused to be breastfed at all and cried all day. They had truly become spoiled little princes. Okay, I'm glad. When the imperial physician was summoned, he couldn't find anything wrong with them. Liu was beside himself with worry, but also puzzled. If he held the kids, they immediately cried a lot less, but if he handed the children off to the wet nurse, they would cry until their faces were red, each of them gasping for breath. It seemed that they had grown too used to being fish, and they couldn't live without their fish father. Liu was secretly delighted that his children still thought of him, but babies had to drink milk. They couldn't continue like this. Did that mean he had to be the one to feed all of them? Feeding babies was different from feeding fish. It seemed kind of interesting. Liu rubbed his hands together excitedly. How about I try? Prince Jing was stunned. Taking a peek at Liu's flat chest, he couldn't help the flurry of thoughts in his head. Were carp spirits that gifted? Not only could they give birth, could they also breastfeed? Prince Jing, where your head at right now? You know his brain's going to some places that aren't just nourishing the babies. There's got to be fanfics out there about that one. Hands down, I believe it. Chapter 93, Grand Fishy Wedding. Prince Jing's getting a little too excited, right? 93 Grand Fishy Wedding. Liu thought he could feel Prince Jing's gaze burning into him, but the waiting baby was more important, so Liu didn't have time to think about it too much. Baby bottles didn't exist in ancient times, so Liu thought of another way. He asked the wet nurse to squeeze the milk into a bowl. Then he picked up Da Bao and a tiny silver spoon and started trying to spoon small amounts into Da Bao's mouth. Da Bao continued to scream, shaking his head desperately. Oh, did this child just not like milk? Thinking back on it, he'd always fed the fish babies top quality fish food and peach blossom pastries. Perhaps that was the problem. The fish babies liked fresh sweets, not bland milk. But what could he do? At the moment, the babies weren't all grown up and didn't even have teeth. They could only drink milk. Liu said gently, Da Bao, either you drink the milk or you go hungry. After being gently threatened by his fish dad, Da Bao pouted, then drank the milk in the spoon with tears in his eyes. Oh, Liu's first attempt went smoothly, but the next time Da Bao accidentally choked. Now he refused to drink from the spoon, no matter what. Liu thought about it, then ordered someone to bring a plate of peach blossom pastries and set them to the side. Da Bao stared longingly at the peach blossom pastries with his sparkly black eyes. But it was no use. His unsympathetic fish father only let him smell the pastry. When Da Bao was momentarily distracted, Fish Dad slipped another spoonful of milk into his mouth. I hope they get to solid foods quicker than general babies, because they already know what the good stuff is. Prince Jing, who had been watching the entire time, realized he'd been mistaken. He'd been expecting a completely different kind of feeding. He called himself out. He walked towards Liu. Liu was holding Da Bao, humming an unknown tune. When Prince Jing approached and saw the gentleness in his eyes, his heart felt soft. Stubborn little babies. Would suck to be like a whole person, then suddenly you're a baby, right? Well, being able to speak and then, like, yeah, not being able to move your body the way you want and no longer can communicate clearly. I can't help but think about the first time my youngest niece had chocolate at Easter. My mom, like, this was, I think, she was like 6 months old. And so just starting to get to solid foods. And my mom just popped the binky out of her mouth, took the chocolate bunny that was there, just popped the ears in, and her eyes just went. We did not see the end of the bunny. But like after that, she knew what the good stuff was and was very upset when it was gone. Like if we didn't let her eat the whole bunny, she like got most of the ears because she was just suckling on it. Because she didn't have teeth. But she definitely knew what she was missing out on at that point. Oh, I'd be furious too. It'd be so hard. But Prince Jing, who had been watching the entire time, realized he'd been mistaken. He'd been expecting a completely different kind of feeding. He walked towards Liu. Liu was holding Da Bao, humming an unknown tune. When Prince Jing approached and saw the gentleness in his eyes, his heart felt soft. Imitating Liu, Prince Jing also picked up a child and fed him milk with another spoon. Occasionally, he'd glance at Liu. Liu giggled quietly. Prince Jing had chosen Sibao. The other three all looked like little chubs, and only Sibao looked a little bit like Liu. Prince Jing really liked to hold Sibao. The whole point where Liu got exasperated about All the babies except one looking like Prince Jing. Reminds me of the meme like 9 whole months inside of me and you come out looking like him. Like that meme is perfect for it. Whenever Sibao was being held by his dad, he'd smile happily. As expected of the most confused baby, he hadn't noticed the difference between milk and fish food and just wanted to be fed by his father. Sibao finished the milk incredibly quickly. When he was done, Prince Jing wanted to pick up Airbao, but Sibao kept his fingers clenched onto his collar, unwilling to leave his father's embrace. Yes, I've seen so many versions of the Donmei versions of the meme. Or the Apothecary Diaries. Yeah, very much so. When Dabao was finished eating, he also grabbed onto Liu. Then, as he was trying to console him, Airbao and Sanbao started to cry even harder. They hadn't even had their turns yet. Liu sighed in resignation. He and Prince Jing had no choice but to hold 2 children each. He felt like they were much better behaved when they were fish. Well, they could be more independent when they were fish. When night fell and it was time to sleep, the babies still wouldn't let go. Liu discussed the issue with Prince Jing, his face red. Your Highness, they're still young. Maybe they're just not used to it. Let's let them sleep together with us. Before, when the fish babies were in the tank, they stayed in the same room as their dads, and fish dads slept beside them all the time. Why did they have to go sleep with a stranger, the wet nurse, now that they were human? None of them were willing to do that. Being a human wasn't better than being a fish at all. They couldn't move or speak, and they could only drink boring old milk. This was way too hard. Fish babies wanted to be held by their fathers. Sob. All right. I say that gets at least 1. I'd be willing to argue for 2 because there's 5 or 4 of them. Prince Jing had always doted on Liu. Since Liu was the one to suggest it, he resisted the urge to kick the 4 babies out and nodded. Liu first put all the babies on the bed, then lay down himself. These days, he only had 4 hours to be human. It would be fine if he took a little nap. Prince Jing would take care of everything for him. But as soon as he lay down, the children immediately craned their necks and stretched out, wanting to stick themselves to him. If they couldn't reach him, they'd start to cry. Liu had to make sure each child was touching him. Dabao claimed one of Liu's arms, Airbao and Sanbao claimed the other one, while Sibao grabbed onto Liu's leg tightly. Once Liu was completely surrounded, all the babies were satisfied. But Prince Jing, who felt like his wife was getting further and further away from him, was not. Liu touched his finger, looking at him apologetically. Prince Jing held his hand back, gently pinching his palm. Babies had very limited energy, and they were now fully fed. They each nodded off to dreamland quickly. I love that Prince Jing's a little bit like, what about me, honey? Huh? Prince Jing waited until the 4 of them were fully asleep before handing each of them over to the wet nurse, expression stiff. Liu, surrounded by his babies, was about to nod off when he suddenly felt cold. Ah, his husband was here. Liu wrapped his arms familiarly around his shoulders. Their married life was very harmonious. Every couple of days, they'd had to absorb essence. Had to, huh? If they ignored the whole pregnancy thing, Liu was very happy to absorb essence. But today, Prince Jing was a little different. He absorbed essence incredibly thoroughly. Liu's face was flushed, feeling both numb and tingly, and tears swam in his eyes. Originally, he hadn't thought he was capable either, but now he felt like something was about to come out. Was Prince Jing getting his revenge now for the time Liu had accidentally bit him on the man's tit? Something, yeah. Yeah, he might have a new, sure, revenge, Liu. Liu couldn't take this kind of stimulation. Oh, you're in a sewing group, Esper Lady? That's cool. Like, are you working on projects together like a Stitch and Bitch circle, or like are you doing like a project together, or like working on cosplay? Like, give me the deets. That sounds really cool. Um yeah, like tell us about it. Um Basically the fish babies are now like babies, human babies. The emperor was very excited. Wang Gongong was ecstatic. The third prince got in trouble because the sixth prince framed him, and so the third prince is kind of out of the picture. The sixth prince is scheming. He found out about the babies. I think I said Liu's now the consort. Everything got figured out there, and now the babies are human, but rather upset to be human, and are very clingy for their parents. And I like sewing, but I like hand sewing, and it's time consuming, and I'm not the neatest with it, but I find it fun. So I feel like that's what's important. I like making novelty Christmas ornaments, like of weird things. It's a it's a good habit, a good skill to have, sewing. Do you need to fix something or just make something? Felt's a really good place to start for sewing projects. Yeah, sewing is like getting through the hard bits to get to the really fun and rewarding bits. I agree. Um, One of my favorite of the novelty ornaments I made was one of my brothers is like obsessed with solo stoves, which are like the little camping travel like bonfire pits. He like bought one and like had like a single solo stove because they were doing a promotion or something, or like he won one at work. I don't know how he got obsessed with these things, but I made him like a little felt solo stove and like stitched on like flames on the top of it, like it was on fire. I thought it was pretty funny. I actually have a picture of it. Hang on. Got to go back through the favorites a little bit, but I have a picture of that. I could just show you. It was a lot of fun. That was also when I was recovering from my broken ankle. That was when I was recovering from a detached retina. So I literally couldn't move around. Probably wasn't the best to be doing with a detached retina, but I was going stir crazy and needed to do something. So there was a lot of handmade gifts that year. There it is. There's my solo stove. Yeah, I I wasn't kidding about the like mine like bull body like China. Um Another one that I was laughing about, I made my dad prune juice one because I was joking that he was old. What other ones did I make? I made my sister one that was when pigs fly, because for some reason my mom and I decided that our kitchen theme was going to be pigs. So we made her a flying pig. Um my dog ended up passing away that just a bit before that. So I made this one for my mom. This is Pickles. He had kind of like a white muzzle, so that's what that is. I like doing hand sewing. So this was the design that my mom like painted for my brother. She made what's called a barn quilt. So it's like painted. So I sat down and did this one for a while. That one's cool. Yeah, Pickles was a sweet boy. What other ones did I make? This one I made for my eye doctor as a thank you because I kept seeing him. That one was actually pretty quick once I got it cut out. I made this for my eye doctor as a Christmas present. I thought I was being funny. I included the little like eye stem. I like making ones that are kind of funny. It's more entertaining that way. Oh, and then I also sewed these. I'm very proud of these. These are all my radishes for my Wei Wuxian cosplay. So I've also got Emperor Smile. Of course, we have Lan Wangji. And then we have Baby Ayun. And then Wen Ning. Radish Wen Ning. Here's Baby Ayun. There. Yeah. Here. I'll zoom in for on Ayuan. I personally felt very smart doing Baby Ayuan and Lan Wangji. I had time. I was going crazy. Stir crazy. So yeah, I enjoy just like little fun things. I think I'm going to be making sussy for one of my friends for Christmas. This was one of the things I made for Kictor a while ago. Kictor and Stitch was the jiggy hats. So I made that for Christmas for him a while ago. A lot of it's just felt is a lot easier to work with because it's a little stiffer. But if you're working with just knit fabric or like looser fabric, it frays a lot easier. So I kind of cheat a little bit because I use felt because it's also cheaper. You could do a lot with felt, either gluing it, sewing it. Only thing is it pills up, like it gets those little fabric pills on it if you use it or wash it. Yeah. Anyway, you never said what you're making. Like, are you making a quilt? Are you making cosplays? What are you making, Esper Lady? I gotta find out. Oh, there it is. I'm gonna keep going. But yeah, let us know if you don't have to, but I'm sure we would love to know. His husband was here. Liu wrapped his arms familiarly around his shoulders. Their married life was quite harmonious. Oh wait, no, we read that. We found out that Prince Jing is trying to find out whether or not Liu can produce milk like a pregnant woman. Liu couldn't take this kind of stimulation. He felt like his soul was about to be sucked out of his body. He punched Prince Jing a few times, yelping. Prince Jing, who was doing his best to absorb the carp's spirit's essence, glanced at the hourglass and then finally let go, holding onto Liu's waist instead. The next day, when they were feeding the babies, Prince Jing was looking down, focused on feeding Sibao, while Liu held Dabao. Liu's chest was sore and his legs were still shaking. No, you're all good, Esper Lady. Thinking back to the wild night he'd had, Liu couldn't resist glaring at the culprit. Prince Jing felt his fierce gaze. He smiled at him, then licked his lips salaciously. Seriously? He couldn't even speak, and he'd still managed to attack Liu with brazen flirtation. Oh, amazing! I love that you have a sewing group. That's so cool. And good luck on your Lan Wangji cosplay. I love Lan Wangji. I think he might be my favorite out of like all our dudes. I love him. Whatever. It was fine if his husband was like this. It wasn't as if he didn't benefit. With Liu's continuous encouragement, Da Bao and the rest of the kids slowly started to get used to being human babies. That was when the emperor's edict arrived from the capital, appointing Liu as Prince Jing's official consort. Prince Jing had done exactly as he'd promised and gotten Liu the title. Liu almost couldn't believe it himself. This wasn't just something the villagers on the street called him casually. He was now Prince Jing's official consort, recognized by the emperor himself. He was going to be recorded into the official family tree, and their marriage was set in stone. On the day the edict arrived, Prince Jing decided on the date of their wedding. Wang Shi had been preparing for this a long time, and everything was ready so they could hold the wedding whenever they wanted. Prince Jing was just annoyed that all the auspicious days were too far away and that he had to wait even longer. Liu was amused by this rare childishness from his husband. Thinking about how Prince Jing wanted to give him an official wedding, even though they already had children, Liu's heart felt like it was coated in sugar. The emperor has already agreed. It's just a matter of time, Liu placated him, chuckling. Don't be impatient, Your Highness. Having tasted the sweetness of Liu's particular sort of comfort, Prince Jing continued to pout childishly, only calming down when Liu continued. At the same time, he asked Wang Shi to double-check everything that had to do with the wedding. It didn't take Wang Gongong long to check it at all. The only thing that was left was the most important aspect of the wedding robes. Prince Jing's robes had been made to order far in advance, and there were several backup sets waiting. Every single stitch had been inspected by Prince Jing, and all the accessories were made by artisans according to Prince Jing's designs, ensuring that each piece was completely unique. Liu hadn't tried on the consort's robes and accessories yet, but with Prince Jing's experience designing clothes for him, there was nothing to be worried about. Finally, the day of the wedding came. Prince Jing handed Liu his robes personally. There weren't that many servants, and Liu didn't have any family, so Prince Jing helped him change and do his hair himself. Soon, Liu was dressed in his bright red robes edged in gold, made from Yuehua's brocade. Apparently, clothes made from Yuehua brocade gave off a serene radiance like light of the moon, which was how it got the name Radiant Moon Brocade. The Yuehua brocade was woven with gold thread and phoenix feather thread, and embroidered with a majestic koi fish leaping amongst the clouds over a gate. A fish pattern was embroidered all along the collar and long train, shimmering with extraordinary brilliance. The belt was woven from soft gold thread and made to look like aquatic plant leaves. Though it appeared thick, it was actually very light. A few small, cute golden fish hung from the belt, tinkling as they moved. To match the outfit, there was a ruby and pearl headpiece, topped with a circle of 36 small golden fish. Each fish was encrusted with rubies, and strings of pearls fell from the fish's mouths, covering Liu's face slightly to keep him partially hidden. Yeah, Prince Jing is having too much fun with his theme. Liu had never put on makeup before, but on this joyous day, he put on a bit of blush and lipstick, making him look even more radiant. After he'd made sure that Liu's entire outfit fit him perfectly, Prince Jing gave a small smile and went to change himself. Wang Shi waited on him and couldn't help but speak for his master. Consort, according to the rules, your robes should be embroidered with a phoenix. His Highness asked the Emperor specifically for the changes to your robe. Wang Shi had been in charge of planning the wedding, so he knew exactly which things Prince Jing had worried about. Prince Jing didn't need Liu's gratitude, but Wang Gonggong was very chatty and immediately revealed everything to the consort. Liu had seen Yi Qinghuan and the princess's wedding robes. He hadn't realized that even just the embroidery would require so much thought. He was suddenly overcome with gratitude. Soon, Prince Jing finished changing into matching wedding robes, except in black. Liu took a careful look and saw that Prince Jing's robes were still embroidered with the four-clawed dragons, as expected of a prince, but their belts were the same, in the shape of aquatic leaves, and he'd tied the silver bead that Liu had once given him onto his belt as well. His sleeves and hem were also embroidered with the same fish patterns as on Liu's robes. Wasn't he secretly showing off their love? Liu gave himself a thumbs up for being so perceptive and noticing all the beauty in the world. Prince Jing walked over, lowering his head as though he wanted to kiss him. As he did so, a section of red string appeared from beneath his robes. Liu smirked and pulled it out. He wanted to know what the prince was wearing on such an important day. Liu was wearing Prince Jing's little jade figure, as he suspected. Prince Jing was wearing his fishy rock. Put together, they were a match made in heaven. Your Highness, Consort, the time has come. Wang Shi was so happy he kept wiping his eyes. Here. It's not in color, but don't they look majestic? So pretty. Here, I'll bring it a little closer. I love the koi pattern. Right? Wedding robes are always so gorgeous. Prince Jing felt for Liu's hand beneath their robes, and the two exchanged a glance. Liu didn't have any family. His family was Prince Jing. Prince Jing helped him onto the wedding carriage, then sat inside himself. The red and green wedding carriage made a lap around Luofeng village, then returned to Prince Jing's residence for the bows. Plenty of villagers had come to witness the joyous occasion and followed behind the carriage. Liu lifted the curtain, feeling nervous as he looked down at the crowd of people. Yeah, Prince Jing's little smile is very sweet. Prince Jing gave him an encouraging glance, and Liu gave a tentative wave to the audience. The villagers all knelt on the ground and cheered loudly. Long live the consort! The noise startled all the surrounding magpies into the air. Liu's heart leapt. In this moment, he really felt like he belonged in this ancient world. Right? They really have come so far and are too sweet. Da Bao, Air Bao, San Bao, and Si Bao were lying in a row on the bed. Today, there was only the wet nurse and no dads. They were utterly dejected. Faint music could be heard from outside. Si Bao remembered that the wet nurse had said his dads were getting married today. He didn't know what married meant, but it must have been a good thing. Si Bao attempted to flip himself upright, but failed. He waved his arms around angrily. I want to go to our daddy's wedding. San Bao also started to wave his limbs around, following his example. I want to go. Air Bao turned to look at them. How? Air Bao, San Bao, and Si Bao took turns eyeing at each other. After coming to an agreement, with Si Bao in the lead, they all did their best to roll down from the bed. If they wanted to see their dads get married, they first had to get off the bed. Although babies weren't very strong, they could still achieve their goals by rolling. But they weren't even a month old yet. Once they rolled over, they couldn't roll back. Airbao, Sanbao, and Seabao all lay face down on the bed. Ah! Save us! Dabao had witnessed everything. He gave a dismissive wave of his hand. Ah, you're all so stupid. Oh, brothers. Chapter 94. Okay, so 2 more chapters. One fishy family. Prince Jing mentally kept track of Xiao Yu's transformation time. Although they took a lap around the village, the carriage sped up as much as possible when there were not a lot of people. The carriage driver had received a unique task. On the day of the wedding, he had to drive quickly, but not so quickly it disturbed Prince Jing and his consort. The driver was an old servant of Prince Jing's. In order to celebrate him finally getting married, he really went all out, practicing for this specifically for a month. I love that all of his people actually genuinely care for Prince Jing. That is so good. Yes. Along the way, Prince Jing's guards were in charge of security, stopping any overexcited villagers from getting too close. Once the carriage safely returned to Prince Jing's residence, the next step was the wedding vows. The emperor was in the faraway capital, unable to attend Prince Jing's wedding, but that didn't stop his need to reward. It took Wang Shi over an hour just to read the gift list. The group bearing gifts from the emperor lined up all the way from the room where the ceremony was taking place to the outside of the entire residence. There weren't too many guests invited to this wedding. Prince Jing wasn't a fan of commotion, but this was his and Xiao Yu's wedding. He couldn't just have a bunch of empty seats. So he asked the village head to bring some of the respected elders in the village as important guests. Auntie Xu, who was close to Liu, was also invited. Most of the guests weren't nobles or aristocrats, but the couple didn't receive any less congratulations. I love that Auntie Xu, who was the one who helped out Liu initially with the kitchen, feeding him when he first had the only 2 hours to go do something when he first transformed into human. She was the one who helped him. I loved that they invited her. At the ceremony, where one's parents would usually sit, sat the emperor's edict as well as Empress Xiao Huai's memorial tablet. Just as Prince Jing signaled for the host to start the ceremony, a horse suddenly arrived. Yi Qinghuan got off the horse, travel-worn, and rushed to the ceremony excitedly. After they'd found out about Prince Jing's wedding, the House of Chang'an had to send someone, no matter what. Yi Shi had volunteered, at least in part because he missed his cousin, who he hadn't seen in nearly a year. Tianqi, it's finally my turn to congratulate you on your marriage. Right? That's so sweet. Yi Qinghuan smiled and patted Prince Jing on the shoulder. For once, Prince Jing didn't brush him off. Instead, he smiled lightly and ordered Wang Shi to bring over a cup of wine. They then drank it together. After drinking the marriage wine, Yi Qinghuan was feeling chatty. Besides, he had a lot to talk about. When Prince Jing had first left the capital, he'd sent a letter to the House of Chang'an asking them to be patient, observant, and flexible. They could not beg for mercy on his behalf, nor should they write any letters to the western border. After Prince Jing left, aside from the old Duke of Chang'an, who seemed to have limitless patience, everyone else was worried for him. In the past year, Prince Jing had suffered bandit attacks and locust infestations, had even had to give away his job at the Ministry of Works to the sixth prince. Yi Qinghuan nearly went to beg the emperor to let Prince Jing come back. Tishu got to see it. Yeah. Fortunately, the old Duke of Chang'an had managed to convince him in time, asking him to trust Prince Jing. The old Duke of Chang'an could see what was going on. Prince Jing was currently in a very delicate situation. If the House of Chang'an stepped up, not only would they be unable to help Prince Jing, they would cause all of Prince Jing's efforts to go to waste. Yi Qinghuan could only wait for something to happen. The wait lasted until Prince Jing asked the emperor for Liu's hand in marriage, and the emperor agreed. Yi Qinghuan had met Li Gonzi before. Not only had they met, the entire house of Cheng'en loved Li Gonzi, and they all thought this was a good match. Yi Qinghuan kept following the former duke's orders and never said anything. But Li Gonzi was a man. That was an indisputable fact. What about Prince Jing's future children? Yi Qian kept his mouth shut too and didn't tell Yi Qinghuan that Li Gonzi, or Li Yu, had already given Prince Jing 4 little Gonzi, and the matter of heirs had long since become a non-issue. As a result, currently Yi Qinghuan really wanted to comfort Prince Jing. Don't worry, there will always be solutions when it comes to your heirs, Yi Qinghuan said quietly, pulling Prince Jing to the side. I shouldn't say this to ruin your special day, but my parents have both worked out a solution for you. As long as you have children, Li Gonzi won't have to face judgment and blame in the future. If you don't want Li Gonzi to suffer, you can find a kid of royal blood and adopt them. There must be someone suitable. Prince Jing raised a brow, put down his cup, and shook his head. Yi Qinghuan thought he knew Prince Jing well enough to guess his thoughts and tried, Do you perhaps look down on other people's blood? He didn't just look down on them. Prince Jing nodded. Yi Qinghuan said, If no one else, what about me? He scratched his head, saying, This is just a thought. The princess is already pregnant. I should be able to convince her to give you our next son. Don't misunderstand. I don't want to do this either. If it doesn't suit you, of course, I would be happy to keep him. Yi Qinghuan's in for a surprise. He is, but I also love that he's willing to help find a solution for a situation that most people would be going through at this point, which is needing heirs, but also marrying a man, which usually does not result in heirs unless you're a magical fish. Yi Qinghuan's tone grew solemn, as though he couldn't bear to part with his flesh and blood. Prince Jing didn't know how Yi Qinghuan had ended up here. He coughed lightly. When Wang Shi heard, he immediately brought the wet nurse over with the child. Your Highness, the young masters are crying so hard. This old servant had no choice but to bring them to the ceremony. Wang Shi didn't dare tell him that in the brief moment the wet nurse had left, 3 out of the 4 young masters had flipped over and couldn't get back up again. They'd nearly drowned in their tears and were inconsolable, no matter what the wet nurse did. Wang Shi thought that since it was very lively here, perhaps the young masters would enjoy it, and decided to bring them to the ceremony. But now that they were out and had spotted Prince Jing and his consort, there was no way that they would leave. The young masters wanted to see their dads get married. Prince Jing also missed his sons and gestured Yi Qinghuan over to take a look. Yi Qinghuan was completely bewildered when he saw the 4 babies. Each one was wrapped in a different colored swaddling cloth, gold and silver mixed, silver and black, and held in the arms of Wang Shi and the woman. Who was this? What relationship did she have with Prince Jing? Yi Qinghuan was confused. Wang Shi chuckled. The young masters insisted on wearing this. The wet nurse wanted to change them into something more celebratory, but they wouldn't let her. They started crying immediately. That's their colors as a fish. Prince Jing nodded, not assigning any blame. Wang Shu didn't know, but he knew the colors of these swaddles were the fish baby's original colors. Prince Jing took Sibao from the wet nurse and expertly patted his back. Yi Qinghuan's eyeballs nearly popped out of his head. He couldn't help but ask, Wang Shi, whose babies are... What did Wang Shi call them? Why did Wang Shi call them young masters? And why was Prince Jing so experienced with picking them up? Wang Shi slapped himself on the forehead and said, Shizzy, so sorry. This old servant was so busy being happy he forgot to introduce you. These are His Highness's children. The consort, gave birth to them. Liu could give birth? Yi Qinghuan was thoroughly stunned. He slowly turned around to stare at Prince Jing, whose expression was full of pride. He's like, yeah, I did this. Wang Shi's words were too shocking. Yi Qinghuan needed time to adjust. Li Yu had given Prince Jing 4 kids? Men could get pregnant too? Wang Shi had no choice but to give Yi Shizi, who was about to pass out, a brief explanation. He was so busy being happy. I mean, he probably was, let's be real. Although Wang Gonggong wasn't clear on the details either, Prince Jing had seen the whole process through. Plus, there was the gynecological expert, the other physicians, and the 4 young masters as proof. He could swear to the heavens it was real. Yi Qinghuan could also tell that 3 of the babies looked a lot like Prince Jing when he was younger. The one that Prince Jing was holding looked a lot like Li Yu. If it was fake, how could it all seem so real? Wait. Yi Qinghuan suddenly realized. He'd thought Prince Jing was childless, but he'd actually already had 4 healthy sons. Meanwhile, he, whose wife was still pregnant, had lost again. Prince Jing knew Yi Qinghuan had mentioned adopting because he was being considerate of him, not because he wanted to be offensive, so he wasn't angry. He was just annoyed Yi Qinghuan was still standing there being a bother. They'd only had a brief moment of brotherly companionship before he wanted Yi Shizi to go somewhere else. There wasn't much time left, so the wedding vows had to happen soon. They had to do it during the pre-calculated auspicious time. Prince Jing gave the host another look, and they immediately started the ceremony. Li Yu wasn't used to such finery, while the pearls dangling into his field of vision were a little distracting. Prince Jing quickly walked to his side. Your Highness, Liu called out with a smile. Prince Jing really couldn't smile enough today. He reached out, and a warm hand enveloped his. As soon as their hands touched, all the commotion in the room settled down. Liu eyed a brazier to the side. What was going on? Did the consort have to step over it too? He was worried he'd kick the brazier over with how clumsy he was, or burn the expensive wedding robes. Okay, so stepping over a fire is a traditional wedding custom to burn away bad luck. It's not just for weddings, though. If someone is thought to have inauspicious luck or like an unlucky star chart or like birth chart, sometimes like if you're bringing them back or they're coming back from a trip, they would have them step over the brazier before they entered the household to burn away some of their bad luck, which is kind of cool. Just fun little historical nugget. Neither seemed particularly lucky. Oh, burning the expensive wedding robes or tripping over it. Yep, no, that would be seen as a misfortune and bad luck. But as he was fretting, Prince Jing wrapped his arms around him and picked him up lightly. Liu felt his feet leave the ground and his mind went blank. In an instant, he was back on the ground with the brazier behind him. Liu's face was bright red. Not even the pearls on his headdress could hide his embarrassment. Prince Jing had actually carried him over the brazier in front of everyone. The prince was so smooth. And the guests all laughed amicably. Yi Qinghuan laughed the loudest, and the Niang behind them also went red. Niang is a woman who accompanies the bride when she is married into her husband's family. Niang is responsible for teaching the bride proper etiquette. Niang. Like, I know that Niang is, like, mom. Xiniang. Now, Xiniang is a traditional Chinese handheld weighing scale which is used to Xicheng is a traditional Chinese handheld weighing scale which is used to lift the bride's veil. The scale has a long handle so it can be used for this purpose. Okay, so that's also going to pop up. And the Xiniang, it was finally time to do their bows. Liu stood at Prince Jing's side. The two of them sincerely bowed to the heavens and earth and Prince Jing's parents. Finally, there was a deep bow between the couple. I want to look at the Zaichin. 1 second. Zaicheng. Wedding tool. Come on, phone, you can do it. Hang on. All right. Let's go, internet. While it's loading, I'll keep going. To be honest, they'd been married since the day they signed the wedding contract. This was just a declaration to the rest of the world, declaring that from now on, you are mine and I'm yours. Prince Jing told Wang Shi to take care of the guests as he and Liu went back to their room. He'd already formed the habit of regularly checking the silver hourglass. Xiaoyu's transformation time was almost up, so he had to keep an eye on him. On such a special day, he couldn't let Xiaoyu experience even a sliver of panic or shock. Once all the guests, sorry. Stop it. Once all the guests, I said no. Hang on. I'm so sorry. You know what? We're done trying to look that up. It's not working. Okay. Once all the guests had left, Prince Jing used a traditional rod to part the pearls covering Liu's face. The two of them stared at each other for a while, then smiled at the same time. Prince Jing reached into his sleeve as Liu stared at him in anticipation. He guessed the prince would have some notes prepared or perhaps a special gift for the occasion. But Prince Jing didn't produce anything strange. It was just a long oval box, and inside was a rolled-up painting. Liu unrolled the painting under Prince Jing's watchful gaze. Prince Jing had painted a school of fish. There was a total of 6 lifelike fish, 2 large and 4 small. One of the big ones was silver speckled with gold, exactly like Liu's fish form, and the small ones were gold, silver, gold and silver, and black. It was clearly the 4 fish babies. But this wasn't right. Liu counted again and again. Him and the babies should make 5 fish. Who is the extra large black fish in the painting? Liu thought about it for a while. It wasn't until he caught sight of Prince Jing's black robes that he realized Prince Jing had drawn himself as a big black fish. This was clearly a painting of their family. That's so sweet. Like, it hits you right in your heart. Like, it just is like, stabs you with cuteness. Urgh! Stop being so sweet. Oh my goodness, you're making my standards unreachable. Liu especially liked this large, majestic black fish. He looked at it for a while before he finally, a little reluctantly, put the painting away. Thank you for the gift, Your Highness. Right? It's so cute. Having given his wedding gift, Prince Jing once again picked up the pair of jade cups they drunk from the day they consummated their marriage, and filled them with green plum wine. Oh boy. Careful, it's powerful. This time, Liu drank first and playfully passed the wine to him with his mouth. Sand slowly ticked down the silver hourglass. Two figures rolled together on the marital bed, unable to part. Just as things were getting to a burning point, wave after wave of infant wails came from the next room. The two of them stopped and stared at each other. He was still panting. Your Highness, he bleated pitifully. The children. This was the annoying part of being a dad. You couldn't just enjoy yourself and forget about the kids. Prince Jing caught his breath, resigned, and went to the next room to bring the kids over. Da Bao, Air Bao, San Bao, and Si Bao's faces were all scrunched up from crying. They'd finally made it to the marriage ceremony, but their fish dad hadn't even noticed them. Soon after, their dads had disappeared and their wet nurse had brought them back. They hadn't even received a comforting hug. Even Da Bao, who considered himself the most mature, was about to explode. The indignity. Prince Jing was the first one to appear. The other babies all quieted down immediately, but Si Bao, who was crying too hard and couldn't stop, accidentally started to hiccup. Prince Jing shook his head. With two children in each arm, he moved them all to their room. The fish babies finally saw their fish dad on the marital bed, and they all grabbed onto him, wanting to sleep with him. Liu was surrounded again. He thought he had made another mistake. His lovely wedding night was ruined just like that. He was just about to apologize to Prince Jing when Prince Jing lay down, blinked at him, then pulled him down into his arms to rest on top of him. This way, even if they were surrounded by their children, the two of them wouldn't be separated. Your Highness, aren't I heavy? Liu rested his head on Prince Jing's shoulder, afraid of crushing the man under him. Prince Jing shook his head and turned all the children's faces away. Wrapping his arms around Liu's waist while Liu was still talking, he planted kisses on his lips again and again. Liu had no choice but to shut up. The kids were right there. Couldn't make any weird noises. Squeezed tightly together, the two of them continued to kiss, on and off, full of love. They waited for the kids to fall asleep, for Liu's time to run out, and for him to transform into a fish. Then when it was past midnight again, he could turn back into a human. No matter how long the wait was, they would always find the time that belonged only to the two of them and devour each other to their heart's content. So I like that even though they love each other and they love their kids, they still also make time for each other, which is admirable with new babies. I'm going to blow my nose, then we will do our last chapter. It's next week. That's this. Okay. I was wrong about these chapters. Like, these chapters are good. I enjoy them. It's next week's chapters that I was like, this is my favorite. I miscalculated. I mean, they're still good chapters. Don't get me wrong. It's next week that's hilarious. This ankle. Brr. Chapter 95. Merman. No ordinary person would dare disturb Prince Jing's marital night. But Yi Qinghuan was not an ordinary person. Wang Shi had taken care of all the guests. After everyone had a few cups of celebratory wine, they all bid their goodnight. Only Yi Qinghuan made his way to the bedroom. Wang Shi stopped him with a smile. Yi Shizi, did you want to be thrown out by His Highness again? Prince Jing had ordered that no one be allowed near their bedroom. Even if Wang Shi himself wanted to interrupt, he was powerless. There's a Quad Jude in town, a roast duck restaurant. His Highness had it open for the consort. Due to the special occasion, all the roast duck is free today. If Yishizi is bored, you can take a walk there. Wang Shi had even planned a place for Yishizi to go. Yi Qinghuan had originally wanted to sneak a listen so he could make fun of Prince Jing a little in the future, but he hadn't expected Wang Shi to stop him like this. He'd even been forced to witness Wang Gonggong showing off his master's generosity, and now he was too embarrassed to say. The candles had already been blown out inside, so there wasn't anything fun he could witness anyway. Just as he was thinking roast duck actually sounded pretty good, the door was suddenly opened from inside. Prince Jing walked out, half naked, in a hurry, holding something wrapped up in a piece of clothing in his hand, and ran right into Wang Shi and Yi Qinghuan. Prince Jing nodded calmly, protecting the thing in his arms without blinking, and then walked next door. Yi Qinghuan and Wang Shi were stunned into silence. Yi Qinghuan had good eyesight. Within the clothing in Prince Jing's arms, he had caught a glimpse of a section of a fishtail. The tail of Prince Jing's favorite fish, the one that was silver specked with gold. Yi Qinghuan remembered it well. There's no way he could have mistaken it. What had happened just now? Yi Qinghuan was shocked. After a while, he asked Wang Shi, stammering, Wang Gonggong, Prince Jing, how could he run out carrying a fish on the night of his wedding, and in such a state of undress? Wang Shi was also very shocked, but clearly had more experience than Yishizi. In his eyes, Prince Jing could do no wrong. He quickly recovered and said as though it was no big deal. Shizi, His Highness is just like that. Like what? Was Prince Jing into that kind of thing? Yi Qinghuan didn't know if he should sympathize with the newlywed consort or the fish in Prince Jing's hands. He thinks he's a fish fucker. Which, I mean, he kind of is, but not in that sense. Which is kind of hilarious. I think that, isn't this like the second time Yushizi has caught him with fish Liu in compromising situations? Which is probably why he's a little blasé about it. Oh, did you forget about this, Truffle? Yeah. Liu hid himself in Prince Jing's arms, too afraid to peek out. This wasn't the first time Prince Jing had taken care of him after he transformed, so he wasn't worried at all. But because this was the night of their marriage, they hadn't had much opportunity to think after the fish babies went to sleep. They didn't realize until Liu was about to transform that there was no fish tank in the room. Wang Shi had good intentions. When he arranged the room, he'd been afraid that the two masters would knock into it if they got too drunk, so he had had the fish tank moved next door. Since it was their wedding night, Liu and Prince Jing were so focused on each other that they hadn't noticed in time. Liu only realized what was wrong when he'd already transformed. Prince Jing had an idea where the fish tank might have been moved to and rushed out with Liu to find it. At least they could say they were the only ones in history to experience a wedding night this chaotic. Prince Jing moved very quickly, not wanting to alert anyone, but he never expected to run into Yi Qinghuan and Wang Shi. Liu took a deep breath. Good thing those two didn't know anything. Otherwise, as a consort, he would never be able to face anyone ever again. Prince Jing put Liu safely in the tank. While he waited to turn back into a human, Liu started to wonder whether or not he should ask the system when he could end this lifestyle of transforming back and forth all the time. It would be several years before the fish babies had to transform again. It wasn't fair that he, their fish dad, always had to live in fear that his identity would be revealed, right? Since the growing up quest, the system had disappeared. No further quests had popped up, and Prince Jing took good care of Liu, with his days passing peacefully. Sometimes he couldn't help but think that continuing like this would be fine too. But after this heart-pounding experience, he wanted to turn completely into a human. Before he got to any of that, though, he had the rest of his wedding night left. The kids were still asleep in the bedroom. They might as well use this as a chance to escape and change the scenery. In the end, Prince Jing and his consort spent their wedding night next door. The next morning, Liu was draped over his silver rock bed like a fish pancake. Prince Jing prepared his favorite food, wrapped him in the leaf blanket, and then went to see the fish babies, feeling refreshed. As the man with the most authority in the western border, Prince Jing hadn't just given himself a wedding vacation. All the villagers were given time off to celebrate too. But as soon as he turned the corner, he ran into Yi Shizi with dark circles under his eyes. Yi Qinghuan had accidentally discovered Prince Jing's secret, and he couldn't be more anxious. He'd gone to Qianjude and devoured 3 whole roast ducks, but it hadn't helped. When he got back, he realized Prince Jing still hadn't returned to his bedroom, so his worry only grew, and the misunderstanding grows. Liu was his friend, and Prince Jing was his cousin, someone the entire house of Cheng'en had to follow. Rationally, Yi Qinghuan knew whose side he should be on, but emotionally, he couldn't just do nothing. You've only gotten married to Li Gonzi. Don't do anything that would hurt him. Yi Qinghuan threw down those words, then left. Prince Jing had no idea what that was about, and he decided to ignore him. Sometime later, Wang Shi came over, not sure what to say to him. Your Highness, this old servant will just say one thing. You have to be good to the consort in the future. And Prince Jing really didn't know what these two were thinking. Liu, the fish pancake, entered the system after catching up on his sleep. He'd felt like he vaguely heard the system last night, but he wasn't sure. The system always tried to give him notifications when he was busy doing things. Well, at least he didn't accept all this time. Now that he thought about it, he realized he hadn't entered this mental world in a while. The last time was when he'd collected the reward for growing up. The fish babies had all turned into human babies that time, and he was worried about how to explain the fish's absence to Wang Gongong. The 4 fish babies disappeared together, and then he gave birth to 4 children. Was that suspicious? Fortunately, the reward for the system was 4 plushies that corresponded with the fish babies. That had saved him a lot of worry. I feel like at that point, couldn't you just have 4 fish that are identical to the fish babies? Just normal fish? I'm just saying, that'd be a little... Yeah. The fish babies now each had their own fish plushies, and Liu had a great idea. With the help of Prince Jing, he'd attached a magnet to each baby fish's mouth and tail, as well as their own plush. That way, the plushes could form a line, the same way he would play with the babies. I mean, I guess that works. I just feel like for a magical system, it could go that extra little mile where it's not going to be a problem ever, and it doesn't have to keep making bigger and bigger plushies for the fish as they go on. Thinking for the future. I'm just saying. Although the fish scamming system was a huge fraud most of the time, sometimes it really did pay attention to the details. I guess as long as he's happy with it, I guess. After transmigrating as a fish, he'd been forced to complete many quests, all because of the system. But he'd found his other half in this book, and that was because of the system too. Liu had once hated the system, but now he wasn't sure how he felt. He checked the main quest line as usual and noticed a new quest had lit up. So there really had been a notification last night. After all, they were officially husbands now. They even had the Emperor's approval. Their relationship had gone up another level, so it was time for the main quest to update. The next quest was Postpartum care for fish. Liu felt incredibly embarrassed. Before, he'd just thought all the quest names were slightly weird. He'd already given birth to the fish, so what was there to still care for? Oh, right. He was now considered postpartum, right? Liu looked at the description calmly. With the system's usual behavior, it once again had to be separated into steps. You thought this was only one quest. Actually, it was several quests dressed up as one. This quest line. Wait. You suddenly realized that 2 of the steps were already completed. Postpartum care step 1. I'm going to read it in the system voice. Postpartum care step 1. Incubate and hatch the eggs. Complete. Reward awaiting collection. Postpartum step 2. Feed the young fish. Complete. Reward awaiting collection. Liu thought about it for a moment. Hadn't these 2 steps happen when he and Prince Jing were just learning how to take care of the fish babies? At the time, the main quest was still under determination and nothing had happened. After getting married, the user and the tyrant can no longer be separated, the system explained. You have now reached the requirements for the next quest line, postpartum care. This quest line is different from the others. It will mainly be the tyrant who will be completing the quests. When the first 2 steps were in progress, although the quest line hadn't begun yet, it still had a great effect on the fish babies. Now the system has completed its determination. Liu understood postpartum care was mainly Prince Jing's responsibility. All he had to do was lay there. It wasn't his fault he and the babies were the ones who needed care. As expected of the protagonist, though, Prince Jing had managed to complete 2 in one go. What rewards do these 2 steps give? Asked Liu, curious. If the person completing the quest is Prince Jing, does he get the rewards? But his husband probably didn't need anything. Other than him. The user will still receive the rewards. Each reward is one of the tyrant's secrets. More secrets. Liu was in no hurry to claim them. He'd just save them. Perhaps they'd be useful in the future. Compared to Prince Jing's secrets, he was more concerned about how to become a proper human, so he asked. This is already the 3rd main quest line. When can I become a human? A notification immediately popped up. The 3rd quest in the postpartum care quest line is a time-limited quest. Protect the pet fish. The reward involves returning to human form. Do you want to start the quest? He was delighted. Every other time he'd asked about this, he'd never gotten an answer. This time, the answer came immediately. He could see the light at the end of the tunnel. What kind of quest is it exactly? He asked. Protect the pet fish was way too general. Since this related to whether the user could return to human form permanently, the system explained in detail for once. The time limit is 3 days. After accepting the quest, the user will turn into a merman or a man-mer and be unable to move freely. You need the tyrant to protect you during this time. If you are discovered at any point, you will fail the quest. Please choose carefully, user. A quest where he needed to be protected? He knew what a man-mer or mermaid was, but what was a man-mer? Mermen are human on top and fish on the bottom. Man-mers are the opposite, fish on top and human on the bottom. In other words, in this quest, he will become half human, half fish, but also not a human and not a fish. It was so over. Now he was going to seem even more like a carp spirit. It was fine if he just turned into a fish. If he turned into a merman or man-mer, he'd be lucky to get Prince Jing to stay in the room with him, let alone protect him. Sir, are we talking about the same Prince Jing? He's into everything about you. He liked you when you were a fish. Not in that way, but I think you're gonna be okay. You'll have to wait and see. Have you met your husband, bro? In the legend of the white snake, the half-human, half-snake Yao had scared the scholar to death. Did anyone want to read more about that? Liu forced himself to calm down. If he accidentally pressed accept because he was shaking, he might immediately turn into a creature that was neither human nor fish. He only had one chance to complete this quest, so it was probably best to warn Prince Jing first. He wanted to succeed, of course. Once he did, his happy future was waiting for him. Liu exited the system. Once he found a good opportunity to turn human, he asked in a quiet voice, Your Highness, I have a tribulation I need to get through. Can you help me? Yeah. And that is actually where we're going to be ending for tonight. Yes, I did cut it off there. I'm very evil. But now you have something to look forward to for next Tuesday. Which I am very excited for this. This part, this coming part, is some of my favorite. I thought this was this. Your Highness, would you love me if I was a man-mer? Yeah. Prince Jing is going to be way too into this, isn't he? And have you met your husband, bro? Love how Liu panics about everything. And Prince Jing is just tends to roll. He really does tend to just roll with it. And would you love me if I was man-mer? Can't wait for Tuesday's stream. I'm very excited. The next streams will be so funny. It really will be, Esper Lady. It very much will be. We will be doing 96 through... Oop, I went too far. Through 101. And it will be glorious. But yeah, until then, have a fabulous weekend. I hope it goes well. Hope you do something fun. And if you're super busy, I hope everything goes well with that too. Even if you're not super busy, I hope everything goes well. And I will see you all on Tuesday at 8 CST, Central Standard Time. And anyone who's watching this later, I hope you had a fun time. I know there was a lot of rambling this time, but I enjoyed. I hope you did too. Good night.